Hey, this is Alex Yoder with Pro Tip Tuesday, my favorite day of the week, and we are coming at you from my vehicle as always. It is 26 degrees outside, and we are ready to do this. We're going to talk about deposit disputes. Super fun topic. Actually, I spent about half my day today working on a couple of those. So let me start out. When you are dealing with a security deposit dispute from a tenant, the first thing that you must do in every case, even though it may be tempting to do otherwise, is to put it in writing. Just handle it in writing, period. The tenant, if you are a self-managing homeowner, the tenant may call you or text you or Facebook you or whatever you've done to communicate with your tenant, and they will try to get you on the line. And when they do, push them towards email and just tell them that for the good of all parties involved, that you want to handle it in writing and do it via email. That is the way to go. That way you're not dealing with he said, she said, or any other gray area created by verbal communication. Step 2, you need to document, and this is prior to the deposit dispute, of course, the condition of the property. And if you are going to handle a dispute, you need to be responding to that in writing with proof of each item that you charge for. So you want to provide a photo. Okay, tenant, you're saying that you cleaned the house and I charged you for cleaning. Well, here's some photos of how dirty the oven was and the toilets and the floors. Provide them that data, because a lot of people will vacate a property and have an impression about how they left the property. And normally that impression is better than reality. So when they see those photos, I've had many cases where they simply don't respond after you send that proof to them. And what I believe probably happened in those cases was, well, shoot, it wasn't as good as I thought it was. I guess I don't have a leg to stand on. I'll walk away. And you resolved the dispute right there, because you did your due diligence, you took the appropriate photos, and you replied with proof of that. Now, something that I think is important when you're handling a deposit dispute is that when you are initially reached out to by the tenant, that you handle it this way. Look, I'm not perfect, and it's possible that I messed something up, that I charge you for something that I shouldn't have. I welcome a dispute. I don't want to mischarge somebody. Go ahead and submit the dispute in writing and indicate what you feel I mischarged for, and I'm happy to do a second look. So accept those and handle it that way. I think that's the best way to handle it, because you aren't perfect, and there may be very well items that you missed that you shouldn't have charged for that you'll have to give back to the tenant. But there are items, of course, that they're going to disagree with that you've charged for, and if you know that you're on solid ground with consideration of normal wear and tear and depreciated value, and you have that photo evidence, then there's not a whole lot of room for them to fight you. Now, there are going to be cases where if you have any value for your time, that you agree to settle even when you have the data and the proof. I actually spent half of my day today on a couple security deposit disputes, and we agreed to drop the $300 that they owed and just call it even, because they owed $300 above their security deposit balance. I have all the proof in the world, but the homeowner doesn't want to deal with the time involved with the back and forth arguing and disputing and responding to their claim, or even the risk of liability for potential wrongful withholding. I mean, let's be real. Even though those of us who are experts in the field feel like we have a strong case, you never really know. You go in front of a judge and it could go either way. There's never a sure thing when you're sitting in front of that judge. So why not just save the time and make a business decision and just call it even, and or relinquish a couple $100 just to settle it with the tenant. And even if nobody walks away ecstatic, at least you found a middle ground, and it ends the dispute and ends that liability of wrongful withholding, as I mentioned. So again, I'm just going to recap here. Put it in writing every time. Make sure you have appropriate documentation to support your deposit reconciliation. And 3, there are going to be cases where you just have to weigh the value of your time and make a business decision. You're not going to, I have had homeowners that will spend any amount of money to prove their point, to prove their principle, and they're not going to sacrifice their principles. But here's what's going to happen: you're going to end up wasting all kinds of time. You're going to go in front of a judge, and even if you win, and again, you're flipping a coin in many cases, but even if you win, the tenant's not walking away from that court hearing saying, "Oh shoot, I guess he was right. I guess I've learned a lesson." They're not going to learn anything. Just like if you lost, you're not going to walk away feeling like you learned any kind of lesson. You're just going to walk away angry. So you're not going to make anybody agree with your principle or prove any kind of point. All you're going to do is waste your time and your money over what could have been resolved by simply finding some kind of middle ground. So that is my perspective, and that's really all that I have on deposit disputes for now. So one of the just as a kind of an ending tidbit here, one of the biggest challenges is knowing exactly what to charge of an item when you are considering normal wear and tear and when you are considering depreciated value. That's where having experience sitting in front of the judge or in dealing with these kind of disputes can be very handy. And if you don't know exactly what you're doing with that, I would strongly recommend getting the advice of an attorney, or even the perspective of a expert property manager who has dealt with a lot of disputes. Maybe they can point you in the right direction. But seek professional advice when you are dealing with that if you're not exactly sure how to handle that, because we do not want to wrongfully withhold those monies. Lastly, even though we as property managers, I know that a lot of you are self-managing, but we as property managers have a fiduciary responsibility to represent the homeowner's best interests. However, what always comes first is our obligation to practice fair and honest business. Those are our ethical standards as realtors, as members of the National Association of Residential Property Managers. Practicing fair and honest business comes first. So if there's going to be a dispute, go ahead and submit it. I'll review it and I'll make sure that I didn't mess something up. And if I did, I'll provide you with the proof of what I charged you for and why. So that is all for today. Alex Yoder, Dorman Real Estate Management, Pro Tip Tuesday. And don't forget to join the Colorado Springs Facebook group, Colorado Springs Landlord Forum, so that we can have a conversation about all these kinds of things. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next week. Bye.